Hi, so today I would like to be talking about a topic, actually, a very, very basic question. What is astrology? So, what is astrology? So, as you know, astrology is a huge tree and it has many different branches. Somehow, in today's day and age, in modern popular culture, it so happened that only predictive astrology has seen the light of day. Um, to a lot of people, to the mainstream masses. However, astropsychology, astrotheology, transcendental astrology is sort of remains very fringe and remains at the background. Not many people talk about these things. One of the best astrotheologies people who were into astrotheology were Manly Palmer Hall and Carl Jung as well. Carl Jung was also into astropsychology. And what is that woman's name? The Russian woman. Blavatsky. Yes, they were into theosophy, I believe. So those were the esoterics, the more foundational part of astrology, actually. So today I'm going to explain to you what is astropsychology, astrotheology, and then the more popular one, the famous one of all across the world, many different cultures, east, west, which is predictive astrology. So most people use astrology to predict what's going to happen to you. That's all. And they don't use astrology to study and analyze psychology, behavior, and the purpose you are here for. So that would be, of course, more interesting, don't you think? And so let's start with astrology as a huge tree and its couple of branches that it has to itself. So the first one would be astrotheology. Astrotheology would be talking about archetypes. So if, for example, you have the Western version and you have the Eastern version, but ultimately we all live under the same roof, so East or West doesn't matter. It's just regionally, locally, it will have a different name. Otherwise, the essence and the substrate and the substance is just the same thing. It's just in the East we may call it something else, in the West they will call it something else. To illustrate what I just said, for instance, this is something we all use, right? We all use this. You can go to any part of the world, maybe not the, maybe somewhere tribal in Amazon, maybe they've not seen a phone, but we all use that across the world. Different regions, east, west, doesn't matter. But when you go to different regions of the world, we have a different name for it. Some places, they have, their native language name for that, okay? And you go to Japan, I'm sure the Japanese would have coined a term for cell phone. You go to Spain, they would have a native term for that. You go to Russia, they would have a native term for it. But at the end of the day, despite many different names, many different how you identify this with different terms or names, the role and the way it works is just the same. It is the same thing in many different regions. So astrotheology is the same thing. So in Vedic, we look at the stars, we understand the archetype, we understand the persona of each star or constellation and each houses, and then we give it a name. And then in the West, they do the same thing, and the Middle East and all of that. So fundamentally, you have to understand this is actually a very universal phenomenon, but regionally there would be different names for it. That's all, right? Simple enough. So that is what astrotheology is. And then we go to astropsychology. Now, Carl Jung was more of a proponent for astropsychology, and one of his pupils, Liz Green, was a huge proponent for astropsychology back in the day. She's no more here. She herself was, I think, a psychologist, I believe. You can check out Liz Green and her works. She has very interesting books she has written, and she looked up to Carl Jung a lot. So astropsychology is basically studying astrology chart, and of course people who can learn to decode a natal chart and to study the brain and behavior of the native. So like if you want to study, for example, people always say, oh, this is how a Virgo behaves, this is how a Capricorn would behave. Well, that is psychology anyways, to see how people would react to a certain situation. You put them in a certain circumstance, right? But the deeper you go, as you study transcendental astrology simultaneously and astrotheology simultaneously, you can go deeper into if you're a person who have studied behavioral neuroscience, for instance, then you will understand brain and behavior. And then you can dissect astrology even deeper, all right? You can dissect astrology even deeper and go on to understand the role of brain and behavior with astrology. So it depends on which level you are, how much you understand astrology and psychology and things like subjects like behavioral neuroscience, and then get to the core of it. So the other one would be transcendental astrology. Now, what is, first of all, transcendental, right? Now, transcendental is something related to mysticism and things like, it's to transcend. What do you transcend? The most important thing is the ego self, right? Now, when you use predictive astrology, what is going to happen in my life? You use astrology to predict events in your life, your marriage. When are you going to get that, promotion that you've been waiting for in your office or the corporation, your company you work for? Maybe you are ill. When will you be okay? When is it the right time to have your surgery? So when you use predictive astrology, you're using it for the ego self, for the image, or for your status. Of course, you want a promotion, so your status in life can be upgraded. Your life will be easier, and then people will look at you in a more benevolent way. All right? When will your struggles end? How can you find a solution? You consult an astrologer. When you look at predictive astrology, when can I make the right decision? When can I invest in this business? Shall I buy this property? Right? So the astrologer can advise you, yeah, your time is okay, your planetary dashas, mahadasha is okay, your Saturn transit, Jupiter transit is okay. You can invest in a business, or you can invest in a property, or you can, it is safe for you or not. Okay? So this is what predictive astrology largely is for your ego self. I mean, admit it, it's right there. It's for the lower selves, for your lower self and its survival. Of course, predictive astrology is used for your survival, right? Transcendental astrology is for your higher self. If you get my drift. So in transcendental astrology, what happens is you study, you analyze why Jupiter exalts in Pusha Nakshatra, why Mars exalts in Uttarashada Nakshatra, why Venus exalts in the middle of Pisces, and why it debilitates in the middle of Virgo, and why Mercury exalts in Hashta and then debilitates in Uttara Pradapada. This is transcendental astrology. You also study why Mercury comes into all water signs, why Venus nakshatras all come in fire signs, why all the moon nakshatras come in earth signs. This is directly related to us, because when you look at astrology, it is nature. The signs are of fire signs, air signs, water signs, earth signs, right? This is all part of nature. The five universal elements, right? Or Panchabuddhas, right? So this is all nature. We are nature. So astrology is directly related to the genesis of us being human and as a human being. Of course, I would like to again rephrase that. So, predictive astrology is for you to being human, for your survival. Transcendental astrology is for you to understand you as a human being, if that makes sense, right? So you would understand why the nakshatras, the sky, is designed in a certain way. Why are there certain laws of nature that applies to the design of, astrology. Astrology is how we understand it, but understanding nature's law. Why nature created existence this way, right? So it's very interesting. And how does it apply to us as in existence for us human being, and the journey of a human being from birth to death? And if you somebody who understands the cycles of existence or reincarnation, the patterns of reincarnation, the patterns of existence, birth, death, and beyond as a cycle, then transcendental astrology is something that you can go deep into and learn and analyze. And one of the things, how you learn all of this, astropsychology, transcendental astrology, the other one, astrotheology, is something that you simultaneously learn. And astrotheology is more textbook oriented, definitely. There's so many people like Prash Trivedi, Santos Bonacci is doing astrotheology. They one of they are experts on astrotheology. You can look them up on YouTube and all of that. So you can learn a lot from them. Another thing is, all of this, when you learn all of this, you also have to have a keen interest in astronomy. I mean, they are wings of the same bird. So two wings of the same bird: astrology, astronomy. They are the same. Only thing, these days many people have divorced them. They have given this illusion that they are separate. It's human perspective, modern day human perspective. But let me tell you, astronomy and astrology are one bird. Okay, you must have a keen interest, the interest of stargazing, all right, looking at the sky and being meditative upon it when you do stargazing, because you're not separate from nature. You are one with it. And once we connect, we are already connected. It's just that we have a noisy mind connected to only the ground and not the ether, not the akasha, the fifth element. The fifth element is just waiting for us to call it. So akasha, this is where the fifth element Visuddhi is, the ether, and that's where the sky, the celestial bodies are all, the light bodies are all in the fifth element, akasha. So looking at the stars, looking at the constellation, understanding nature, the phenomenons of nature, physical sciences, this will get us to understand, because as above, so below. Astrology is not something that's just limited to when you're going to get married, what kind of spouse you're going to get. It's not just limited to our survival solutions and curiosity about how we're going to survive as people in this society, in this industrialized world, but it's more than that. Astrology has so much to offer in terms of knowledge on nature, knowledge on why are we here, what's this whole thing about. So the more you open each sign deeper, each constellation, you understand it. It's an archetype that expresses itself in nature in many different aspects. One archetype can express itself in many different ways, through nature, through people, through animals. These are all elements of nature, isn't it? So it's how this the many different facades, different branches of astrology. If you'd like to know, I would definitely we will explore more with my channel, and we would get deeper into bigger questions, and I would explain how I would make more videos on transcendental astrology, astropsychology, and also teach you. But actually on YouTube there's many people already teaching you basics of predictive astrology, so I don't want to get into that. I want to get into something different. Then my channel can be unique. So that's why I want to focus on transcendental astrology, astrotheology, as well as astropsychology, so that I would do predictive astrology here and there. So anyway, that's it for today. I would make another video in some time. Take care. Bye. See you again.